Most people don't understand how powerful a pension really is, or how to structure the rest of their plan around it. And when you don't have a clear strategy, that pension can lead to missed opportunities, bad tax decisions, or even early regret. So in this video, I'm going to walk you through exactly how a pension transforms your retirement plan and the key strategies to be aware of if you want to get the most out of it. I'm Bob Wolfe, certified financial planner and IRS enrolled agent. Before we get any further, it's important to note that this is entirely educational and should not be misconstrued as investment, legal, or tax advice. What most people don't realize is that 15% of private sector workers have access to pensions today, compared to 67% who have 401k access. But if you're in the public sector, 86% of state and local government workers still have pensions to some degree. Having all three, a retirement plan through work, Social Security, and a pension, puts you with a three-pegged stool for retirement to prop you up and puts you in an incredibly unique situation that opens the door to powerful financial strategies, but it also creates some of retirement's tougher decisions. And most people are making these decisions with incomplete information. The problem is that most people, and unfortunately many advisors, treat each income source differently. This is where the expensive mistakes can start to creep in. I hear things like, I'll take my pension as soon as I retire, or I'll roll over my pension to an IRA because I can get 8% returns in the stock market, or I'll wait to touch my 401k until RMDs force me to. Now, this approach is rooted in a fundamental misunderstanding of what a pension actually is. A pension isn't just another investment account. It's essentially a bond with some very unique characteristics. Think about it this way. When you buy a bond, you're lending money to a company or an institution and getting regular interest payments back. With a pension, you're getting regular payments backed by your employer and the US government through something called the PBGC, or the Pension Benefit Guaranty Corporation, which protects benefits up to $7,431 per month for a 65-year-old in 2025. That's better protection than most corporate bonds. Social Security works a very similar way. It's essentially a government bond that pays you for life, adjusted for inflation. Now, if we were to take that future income stream from pensions and Social Security and treat it as if it were a bond as a value, you might discover you already have hundreds of thousands or even millions of dollars in bond-like future assets that most people completely ignore in their asset allocation. You're sitting on a fortune that you might not even know of. So let me show you exactly how this works with real numbers and why this concept changes everything for pension holders. I analyzed a case recently that perfectly illustrates this concept. A case where a couple had a choice between a $500,000 lump sum benefit or a joint with rights of survivorship pension paying $36,000 annually, roughly 7.2% of the value. Most people would just look at the 7.2% and think, I can take that and beat it in the stock market. But the key insight here is that when we calculated the value of their pension plus the value of Social Security, they effectively had over $800,000 in government-backed bonds already in their overall financial picture. They were already bond heavy and they didn't even realize it. This is where the magic happens. This couple had fixed expenses of $80,000 per year. Things like housing, utilities, food, insurance, healthcare. These are needs, not wants. Their pension and Social Security combined provided $78,000 annually. Their needs were matched with their guaranteed income. Once your baseline needs are covered by this guaranteed income source, everything else becomes much more flexible. Your travel, budget, entertainment, gifts to grandchildren, these can all be funded by your variable investment portfolio. You have the privilege to take more risks with your wants because your needs are secure. When we ran the stress test, here's what we found. The results were shocking. Taking the monthly pension gave them a 98% chance of success in their retirement plan because their needs were matched up against their guaranteed income. Taking the lump sum and investing it, Well, that dropped it to around 89% chance of success because they lost that perfect asset liability match. The safer lump sum was actually a bit riskier. This is where things get really interesting. When we stress tested for long-term care needs, the pension portfolio maintained a 79% success rate, while the lump sum scenario dropped to just 42%. Why? Because their fixed expenses were still covered by fixed income, even when their variable expenses spiked for care costs. The pension provided protection that no investment portfolio could match. So how do you actually implement this strategy? Step number 1 is to separate your expenses into 2 buckets: needs and wants. Your needs are fixed expenses that don't change much. Your housing, utilities, food, insurance, basic transportation. Your wants are flexible. Travel, dining out, hobbies, gifts, entertainment. Most people never make this distinction, and it becomes more and more important over time. Let's say your fixed expenses are $60,000 a year. If your pension provides $30,000 and Social Security provides $35,000, you have $65,000 of guaranteed income. Think of it as a bottomless cup of coffee feeding your fixed expenses. You've achieved asset liability matching for your baseline needs. Your survival is guaranteed regardless of what the stock market does. This changes everything about how you can invest in your portfolio and really having a lot more sound sleep nights. Since your needs are covered by guaranteed income that functions like bonds, your 401k and other investments can afford to be a bit more aggressive. Some individuals may end up choosing to go more like 70, 80, or 90% in stocks in this one area because you're not depending on that money for their basic living expenses. They can afford to take more risks because their foundation is rock solid. This creates what I call the golden window. Those early retirement years after your paycheck ends, before RMDs, full pensions, and Social Security's kicks in. Here's a real example. Let's say you retire at 60 with $500,000 in your 401k. You know that at 65, your pension will start providing $36,000 annually, and at 67, Social Security could add up to another $30,000 if you do not fully delay. Your fixed expenses are up to about $55,000, so you have asset liability matching once those benefits start. Your future is effectively secure in that regard. During those 5 years from 60 to 65, you can withdraw from your resources while doing Roth conversions with the remainder. You're essentially using flexible assets to bridge your fixed income needs. And once that fixed income starts, your remaining portfolio can be invested more for growth since it's only for your wants, not your needs. But the implementation is where most people struggle. So here's your step-by-step guide. Step number 1, calculate your fixed versus your variable expenses. List out all of your expenses and categorize them. Fixed expenses are things you must pay regardless. Housing, utilities, insurance, basic food, minimum transportation, flexible spending are everything else. Travel, entertainment, dining, hobbies. Be honest with what's truly fixed versus what you just prefer to spend. Step number 2, inventory your fixed income sources. So let's calculate the present value of the annual payments from your pension, Social Security, and any other guaranteed income sources like annuities. This is your bond portfolio that's often missed for asset liability matching. You might be shocked at how much this bond value actually is. If you're not sure of what these income sources might mean to you, then you can go to what it might cost to purchase an annuity, which is very similar to a pension, which can translate a lump sum of money into an income stream for life. This is a website called immediateannuities.com, and you can put in your information for a free quote of what it would take for you to purchase that guaranteed stream of income in today's dollars. That is roughly what we might assume to be the bond value within our overall financial life. Step number 3, assess your asset liability match so we will compare our fixed income to our fixed expenses. If your guaranteed income covers 80 to 100% of your fixed expenses, you've achieved a very strong match here. And if there is a gap, you might need to consider some things like bonds, CDs, or just recognize that this is something that you'll have to fill in from your portfolio. This is your security foundation. Step number 4, Optimize the variable portion of your portfolio. Once your fixed income are matched with fixed expenses, your investment portfolio can focus more on growth and fighting the shadow cost that is inflation that erodes both and primarily our pension income, since that does not actually have a cost of living adjustment like Social Security. This might mean that 80 to 90% stocks instead of a traditional balanced approach if we have a lot more fixed income to consider. You can be more aggressive because your needs are secure. Step number 5, plan your income sequencing. Think about each fixed income source and when it starts. Can your investment portfolio bridge any of the gaps? Should you delay Social Security for higher payments? How does your pension timing affect your overall matching? Timing is everything in this strategy, but here are some critical considerations that could make or break it. The first critical consideration is around spousal protection. When one spouse passes, expenses typically only decrease by 25% or so, not 50%. You still have the same housing costs, utilities, insurance, and most other fixed expenses, but you also lose a Social Security check and potentially pension income. This is why a joint survivor pension options are important to consider for that. So for instance, let's say that there's a couple with $70,000 of fixed expenses covered by 2 Social Security checks totaling $50,000 and a pension of $25,000. If the pension is single life only, the surviving spouse suddenly has $70,000 in fixed expenses but only $25,000 of guaranteed income from Social Security check. That is a large difference, heaven forbid something were to happen to our loved one. The joint survivor option might reduce the pension to 22%, but it maintains the asset matching for both spouses, and something to certainly consider when making that irrevocable election. So when making any sort of joint survivorship pension option, or annuity option for that matter, you're buying insurance for this strategy. Another factor to consider here is the inheritance factor. With pensions, that guaranteed income typically ends when both spouses die. The same with Social Security. If legacy planning is important, you might take the lump sum and buy more bonds or annuities with a death benefit to maintain both the asset liability matching and make sure that we have the inheritance goals. Now let me share some of the biggest mistakes that I see people make when they don't understand this asset liability framework and the mistakes that are costing people. Mistake number 1, ignoring the fixed income value. I see this all the time. I see people with substantial pensions keeping their 401ks in conservative balanced funds. They don't realize they already have a lot of assets in the future of income matched with their future fixed expenses. So their investment portfolio can be more aggressive for their flexible spending. I recently analyzed the plan where a husband had a $75,000 pension but chose single life. The couple's fixed expenses were a total of $65,000, perfectly matched while he was alive. But when he passes, his spouse has the same $65,000 of fixed expenses with only her $20,000 Social Security check. That is a large difference in what she needs versus what she will have coming in, which could heavily impact her future ability to pay for her expenses. Mistake number 3, overcomplicating the bond portfolio. People spend hours researching bond funds and CDs when they already have the best bonds possible, government-backed pensions and Social Security that provide this matching framework. Should focus more on optimizing their equity allocation instead. We're solving the wrong problem. Which leads us to one of the biggest problems that we face as we age. Mistake number 4, ignoring inflation on our fixed expenses. Fixed expenses inflate over time, but many pensions don't have these cost of living adjustments. If your pension provides that perfect match today, but has no cost of living adjustment, you have a growing mismatch over time. And this might favor the lump sum or a partial portion of a lump sum rollover invested in inflation-protected securities if you have that option. So perfect matching today could become imperfect matching increasingly over 10, 20, 30 years from now. So how do you make the right decision? The following are a couple of examples that we might consider the monthly pension option. Number 1, your pension plus Social Security covers over 80% of your fixed expenses. This is a very strong level of matching. Number 2, you want perfect asset liability matching for your baseline needs. This is a very sleep well at night security option. Number 3, your pension has a cost of living adjustment to maintain the match over time. Number 4, the peace of mind that comes from the guaranteed coverage of fixed expenses is priceless for many people. And lastly, your investment portfolio can be more aggressive since it's only needed for flexible spending, and there too with higher growth potential if you were to take more risk with it. Now, other things to consider to choose the lump sum option: if your guaranteed income already covers your fixed expenses, you don't necessarily need more asset matching. Your bonds or annuities that provide better asset matching, sometimes the private market actually does win out over the public market of what you will get through your employer. Another consideration here is that you need inheritance flexibility while maintaining the fixed income match. So legacy planning matters. Another area that might make sense too is if your pension lacks the inflation protection and you're concerned about future mismatches and increased inflation over time, which will only deteriorate further as time goes on. With all of this being said, sometimes you can have the best of both worlds, and oftentimes a binary way of thinking is not the most optimal approach. Sometimes you can take a partial lump sum and use it to buy inflation-protected bonds or another form of safe asset, maintaining that asset liability matching while adding some flexibility for inheritances. Or you might take the pension for perfect matching of your perfect fixed expenses and use the other assets to hedge against inflation. Don't assume it's an all or nothing decision. I know this sounds complicated, so let me answer some of the more common questions that I get around this. Some of you might be thinking, this sounds complicated. Can't I just follow the 4% rule and keep things simple? The 4% rule assumes you need to generate all of your income from your portfolio. But if your pension and Social Security already cover your fixed expenses, you might be able to withdraw more, sometimes 6 to 9% from your investment portfolio if you don't have your blinders up when the market winds blow, and maybe we might take a little bit less vacations or do a little bit less gifting if that allows us to live much more of a joyful life in the areas around it when times are good. Another question I get is, what if my fixed expenses change in retirement? And this is where the beauty of that asset liability matching framework shines. Your truly fixed expenses, the housing, utilities, tend to be very stable. If you downsize or pay off your mortgage, your fixed expenses decrease, which means you have an even better matching and more flexibility with your investment portfolio. Changes usually work in your favor. Next question I get is, how do I calculate the present value of my pension and Social Security? Now, there are online calculators, but I recommend working with a fee-only financial planner who can properly calculate the present value to help you optimize this strategy. Key insight here is that the asset liability matching isn't just an institutional professional investment framework. It's the foundation of a smart retirement planning when you have guaranteed income sources. The most important thing you can do is map out your fixed expenses and see how well your guaranteed income sources match them. Your pension isn't just another income source. It's the cornerstone of your strategy. And when your fixed expenses are covered by fixed income, you can sleep soundly knowing your baseline needs are secure, regardless of what the stock market does. If you want to see exactly how this framework applies to your specific pension situation, I put together something special for you. You'll get access to the same professional planning software that I use with the families I work with, plus a Loom recording where I analyze your situation to show you some of the options that you might consider as you move forward. Exactly how to optimize your matching strategy. This is the same analysis that I use with the families that I work with. More information on that in the link in the description. And if you found this video opening your eyes to pension strategies you'd never considered, share it with somebody who's facing these same decisions. Till next time, make sure you've matched your fixed expenses with fixed income, and remember that the best bonds in your portfolio might be the ones that come with a guarantee from the government and can never be outlived.